In my previous video, I talked about what's the difference between variables, declaring the variables using let keyword versus using var keyword. Today's topic is const keyword. My name is Zura. Welcome to my channel. What will be the output of this following code? We have an error actually in this code because we print variable a before we define a variable using const keyword. If it would be a variable declared with var keyword, then this wouldn't give us an error. Instead, we would have undefined and 5. If you haven't watched my previous video about let keyword, I really recommend you to go and watch this video. I explain there how let keyword works, and you should need to know how let keyword works before you come to const. Okay, I hope you have watched this previous video and you know how let keyword works, how that it has block scope, and that variables declared using let keyword are not hoisted. Const keyword works in exactly the same way about scoping and about hoisting. Variables declared using const keyword are not hoisted either, and that's why we have error in this following code, and it has also block scope. Let's go to our second example, which we had on our let keyword. If we declare a variable using const here, we have the same situation. We have an error because the a keyword dies at the end of this. The a variable dies at the end of this if statement. If we try to declare a variable outside const a and then we try to assign something inside if statement, we have another problem because when we declare a variable using a const keyword, it's constant, meaning that you cannot reassign something on it. Even if you don't assign something when you define this variable, you cannot reassign it. And we have really obvious error, missing initializer on const declaration. First, this says that when you define a variable using const keyword, you need to initialize it. You need to give it some value. Let's give it to 5. Now this statement is okay, but these and these statements have error because you cannot reinitialize a const keyword assignment to constant variable. Another example is about loops. Of course, we cannot use const keyword inside loop because every time this is incremented, and we cannot increment constant variable because it's a constant. And last example is about scoping, and in this case we can actually define a variable with a variable with const keyword, and we can even define our function with const keyword, and these codes are valid codes and they work fine. And we can execute the function here, which prints test, but we cannot execute this function outside of this block scope because fn lives only here in the scope. Well, actually defining a variable, defining a function with const keyword, this is a function expression, and if you define a function with const keyword, at some point this is good behavior because you don't want your function mistakenly to be overwritten. So if I have let fn is my function and I'm executing here, and at some point here I say that fn is 6, mistakenly I didn't remember that I had this fn declared above. I can write another let keyword here, so this code runs until here. So this has an error because I cannot declare a variable, redeclare a variable using let keyword, But if I remove this let keyword, I have an error here at this line when I try to execute my fn. My fn at this point is a number because I reassigned 6 to my fn. But when I declare, and this gives me actually an error at this point, when I replace my let keyword with const keyword, I have an error at this point because I cannot change my fn because it's a constant. One really important thing about const keyword is the following. I can create an object using const keyword. I cannot reassign something to obj. I have an error about this, but I can modify my object properties, like obj name is John, and print my obj object. This is a valid code and it works fine. The point here is that I cannot change the reference to my obj object. It's read-only, you cannot overwrite it anything because it's immutable. But what I can do is that my references to some object in memory, and I can add properties or remove properties from this object which is in memory. I can add another properties, or I can delete my existing properties. I can add methods also here, delete methods, but I cannot reassign something to my obj object. To sum up, what you need to remember from const keyword is that const keyword works just like let keyword in terms of scoping and hoisting. It has block scope, it lives only in the block scope and dies at after the block scope, and it is not hoisted. Variables declared using const keyword is not hoisting, and you cannot use variable before actually it is declared. I hope you liked the video. If so, click on the like button. If you want to see more videos from me, click on the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. See you in the next time.